Retreat Series, Dhamma Talk number 59. Lately we have been discussing about Citta Nupassana, mindfulness of the mind. And along with it we discuss 6 pairs of consciousness or Citta as described in the Satipatthana Sutra, discourses on full foundation of mindfulness. Those are the 6 pairs or 12 types of consciousness that one can observe in our mindfulness meditation. The first 4 are concerned with most of us, especially the beginners. And the last 2 pairs is one for the advanced and another one for, let's call it more advanced, or some at the highest stage. And the last pair is called Vimukti Citta, liberated mind, and Avimukti Citta, non-liberated mind. So liberated mind means a mind that is free from all form of kilesa, mental defilements. The mind that is pure, the mind that is free from manipulation or influence of mental defilements, Vimukti Citta. Today we are going to deal with this Vimukti Citta, liberated mind. When you are liberated, that means you have a freedom from kilesa, liberated from kilesa, mental defilement. In fact, one need to know there are 5 different types of liberation, liberation or freedom, called Vimukti. Or consciousness is called Vimukti Citta. And here is liberation is simply Vimukti. There are 5 types. The first one is called the Tingha Vimukti. The Tingha Vimukti. It's a momentary liberation or momentary freedom from mental defilements. That is one type, the first type. So when one is observing, precisely observing mindful, when one is observing precisely and powerful on the physical or mental objects, nama or rupa, at the moment of arising, and if you can observe with precision, with power, with force, with effort, on the object that is arising at that present moment, whatever that may be, physical or mental. At that time, you can say you have a sati or noting mind. You have established sati or noting mind. It must be all in order with precision. And that noting mind, or that sati, in other words, the mind with sati, actually is free from all mental defilements, kilesa, at that particular moment, at that particular moment, that kind of momentary freedom from kilesa is called the Tinga Vimukti. Okay. Momentary liberation from freedom. So let's expand it a little bit on that. Let's take that you have one big glass jar, but with a very little, narrow, tiny hole. Big jar with a tiny little hole. So we can say the jar is empty. But in fact it is not empty. It is totally full and filled with air, that jar is. But if you want to take all the air out, what do? We can put one drop of water at a time into the jar. Because it's so tiny, you can only put one drop. Tiny hole, you can put one drop at a time. You put one at a time, one drop at a time. And when you put in one drop at a time, you must aim it precisely. You must aim it precisely. And you have to have a steady hand. And then steadily and continuously, you have to put it one drop at a time. And if you don't take a break, okay, if you don't pause in between, then you will fill that jar in the shortest amount of time. So analogy, keep that in mind. So just like that, our mind, it is totally full or filled with mental defilement, kilesa. It is always there, kilesa is always there. And that kilesa can be replaced by sati, mindfulness. Again too, in here sati, it is a one noting at a time, one sati at a time. Just like a drop at a time. You can replace with sati, but one sati at a time. In one moment, you can apply one sati. In one moment, there's one object arising. So you can only put one sati or one mindfulness at a time. And when you apply that sati, okay, when you apply the sati, you must have a great attention. You must have great attention. To have great attention, you must have put all effort to have that. With that great effort and attention, you aim precisely at the object that is arising. With precision, and then steadily, you aim, you totally engage with it, and you stay till it's finished. The object passed away. But one thing was you have to do one after the other. Every moment, every object, continuously you have to apply. Only if you apply that way continuously, you will see the significant difference in the mind. How much kilesa has been replaced. But one or twice, an hour here, an hour there, a little retreat here, a little retreat there. No. You must do it continuously, and if you do that way, you will have a significant change in the mind, the content of kilesa. So, that's what the Tinga Vimukti is. One moment at a time, one drop at a time, one sati at a time. If you have a correct and precise sati, it replaces the kilesa. And at that moment, you are free from the influence of mental defilements. That's the first type of kilesa, or liberation, the Tingha Vimukti. And second one is Vikampana Vimukti, freedom from kilesa by distancing, or liberation from kilesa by distancing. Vikampana Vimukti. So let's call it kilesa distancing. Distancing oneself away from kilesa, or kilesa distancing. That's a second type of liberation. So we already know one mindfulness at a time. And this one mindfulness at a time, we must be doing it again and again and again, continuously, repeatedly, unbroken. Unbroken means one after the other, nothing come in between. And if you apply that kind of correct sati, unbroken means you are extending your time to 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour. Okay, 1 hour continuously. If you have 1 hour continuously, what happens is your mind is free from the influence of kilesa. Your mind is liberated from kilesa for 1 hour. In other words, you have distanced yourself from kilesa for 1 hour. So one keep on practicing, and if you can achieve a series of those long stretch of period or duration, continuous mindfulness, then you will have a series of liberated period from kilesa. And if you can do that, if you can achieve that, what happened was, a person is observing sati. Okay? Sati. At that moment you are free from kilesa. But sometimes you are not perfect, sometimes you miss. In other words, there are moments, in between moments, that you lose mindfulness. You are unmindful. And when you are unmindful, normally kilesa arises. But now, as you have that stretches or series of continuity, even though you are unmindful, the gross form of kilesa cannot arise. The gross form, that's for sure. Gross form of kilesa cannot arise, even if you are unmindful. But medium and refined may. But if you have a very powerful momentum of these continuous mindfulness sati, even medium and refined kilesa will not arise. That's the gradual progression. But if you don't observe, or if you don't practice full foundation of mindfulness, your mind will be occupied with 100% kilesa. So whenever you face with pleasant object, craving and grasping, automatic, they come. Whenever you are facing with unpleasant object, instantly dosa will arise, anger, ill will, instantly, like a fraction of a second is faster or slower than that arising of the dosa when you face with the unpleasant object. And also, object that you see, you will see with the tainted eyes, tainted glasses. You will see it obscurely. In other words, you don't see as it is, you see wrongly. That seeing is called moha. So if you don't have full foundation of mindfulness, instantly lobha or dosa or moha will be arising, for sure. And we need to take care of these things. And how do we take care of? Let's say a person trained himself or herself to become an Olympian, to get a gold medal in Olympics. If that's the case, that person, what do that person need to do? Or let's say Olympian. First of all, they need a very good, competent coach. Okay. And then that coach, as it is good and competent, has to teach that person proper technique and method and movements to perfection, to maximum efficiency. They have to teach him, coach, and apply the right method. And after that, that person has to exercise, practice again and again and again, at least for 4 years. At least 8 hours a day for 4 years you have to practice. And then, with that kind of a program and effort, one will get a gold medal in the Olympics. That is just for Olympic medal. So just like that too, in this strengthening of the mind, our mind is always occupied with kilesa. When it is occupied with kilesa, we call it, it's a weak mind. We want to transform it into a very strong mind, the strengthening of the kilesa. To what level? To gain liberation, to gain freedom from kilesa. We want to strengthen it. To do that, we first of all need a very competent teacher that you believe in, that you have confidence in. And that teacher will teach you the correct methods and techniques. Along with these techniques, theory, why we do what we do, how we do. And then the last thing, it falls upon you. You practice and practice and practice. But this practice is not for 4 years, not for 40 years. You practice so that that practice becomes a lifestyle. Okay? It becomes a habit. That way one need to practice. How do we practice? We know. First of all, physical or mental object is always arising. When it comes into your attention, you know at that moment, the moment it arises, you aim it directly. Aim it. And after you aim, you shoot it. That means you come in contact with the object. And then you stay with that object. You stick with the object till the object disappears. And when you do that, what happens is sati, mindfulness, arises. And when that correct sati arises, samadhi, mental concentration, automatically arises together. So you can picture that, eh? Let's see at that moment. Okay, ask yourself a question and then figure it out. Look into it, see it, feel it, experience it. At that moment, there is no such thing as sense, desire for sense pleasure. When you're observing an object with precision, developing mindfulness and concentration at that moment, there is no sense pleasure associated with it. And also, you have no dislike to it. You don't have aversion towards it. Okay. What is sense pleasure? Let's go back. Sense pleasure is called kama chanda nivarana. Kama, Chanda, Nivarana, hindrance of sense pleasure. There's no sense pleasure, anger, aversion. What is that? Vyabhada Nivarana. Okay. Hindrance of ill will. They are not there at all. And also, the condition is that you have already established at that moment sati, mindfulness and samadhi. So to be able to establish sati, you cannot just simply pick up, grab it, or fall into your lap. You have to put great effort. Great effort. When you are putting effort, because you have sati. When there is effort, there is no sleepiness, laziness. There is no sloth and torpor. In other words, there is no tina, metta, nivarana. You don't have tina, metta, nivarana either at that moment. Sloth and torpor. Free from sloth and torpor. And at that moment, we are taking one precise moment, what we are doing on the practice. The mind is squarely and firmly on the object. If the mind is not squarely and firmly on the object, you won't have these mindfulness. When the mind is squarely and firmly on the object, the mind has no restlessness. The mind has no guilt. The mind has no remorse. Because the mind is squarely and firmly on the object, it is free from restlessness and remorse. It is free from udicca, kukacca, nivarana. You don't have that either. Now, you are practicing with the correct instruction from your competent teacher. You have the right technique, the right method, the right procedure. And also, to have that, you understand the procedure. You already have the understanding. Okay. And with that procedure, you are practicing or executing. So as you are executing, you are directly experiencing whatever that object is at that moment. So you understand that object very clearly, both in theory and in practice. That means you have no doubt. In other words, there is no vicikicca nivarana. The hindrances of doubt, skeptical doubt is not there. So we have what? All five of them. There's no sense desire, there's no ill will, there's no sloth and torpor, there's no restlessness and remorse, and there is no doubt. That one little moment when you apply that precise mindfulness, sati, you are free from the five hindrances, pincha, nivarana. That is what exactly is happening. So, if you look at it, why are we practicing? Why are we applying that strong, powerful, precise mindfulness, sati? It is to overcome the five hindrances. Mindfulness is the cause. Overcoming the five hindrances, the effect. So now you know we actually dissected. You know it. So you must repeat this process again and again and again and again, so the mind becomes really strong. Okay. Bala citta. Bala means strong, powerful. Citta is mind. You repeat this process again and again so that the mind becomes strong and powerful, become bala citta. Strong enough to do what? Strong enough to overcome kilesa, mental defilements. Okay. These 5 hindrances are what? The 5 hindrances are the key significant part of kilesa, put it out in a specific way for our practice. But in general, they fall under mental defilement, kilesa. So to overcome that, we practiced it again and again for the mind to become powerful. So, in this process of replacing kilesa with wisdom, we are not simply developing concentration. We don't stop at concentration. We go up to wisdom. We are doing wisdom. What is wisdom? Under hindrances. When there is no doubt, you understand it with precision. Understanding is wisdom. We don't stop at concentration. We go right to the end of the road till wisdom. So in other words, we are not simply replacing kilesa with concentration, samadhi. We are replacing kilesa with wisdom, pinya. And to have this wisdom or pinya, one must observe each and every object, one after the other, without missing, with precision. I'll be repeating these words again and again because these are the most important part of our practice. That's why you will see the teacher always stressed what the importance of this process. Observed, first of all, precisely and correctly, seamlessly, from object to object. Don't take a break, don't take a gap. You will hear that words again and again. Observe correctly, precisely, seamlessly, take no break, have no gap. That's a key part. And if you have that, you are the lord of the kilesa. You overwhelm the kilesa. But regardless how much the teacher may say these things, they are yogis, because we all have a different types, different personality. Some yogis are they have great imagination. Some people like to live in fantasy land, majority of their life. Some people like to make their life in planning. Imaginations, fantasy land, planning land. And those type of people, these are not just simply once or twice doing, they become the main traits of these people or yogis who are practicing. Those people, they drift away from one story to another, another story to another, one plan to another, one fantasy land to another, and they drift away. 1 hour ups, maybe you have 50 minutes are in that land, maybe 10 minutes you have noting. That kind of situation definitely will arise. And also there's another type of yogi. Another type of yogi is they love reading. They love intellectual understanding of Dhamma. And they try and shoot that understanding of Dhamma everywhere. And especially in the practice. You're practicing and you have one little moment, two little moments. As soon as that little moment's finished, you start dissecting that moment. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm right, I'm experiencing this, I'm here, I have this insight, I have that insight. That is another type. Those people are intellectual type. They love to live in their brain, dissecting. So in here they are dissecting the Dhamma experience, all their little observation. Maybe about a minute of observation and then analysis of 3-4 minutes. That's even more dangerous because as they are involved with Dhamma in practice and more in theory, they think all the time they are practicing. They think they are practicing all the time. They are with Dhamma, they are with meditation. And that way they don't even know that they have lost their mindfulness. The first one, fantasy people, they know when they go, oh gosh, I'm dreaming, daydreaming. This one is you don't even know. That is dangerous too, even more dangerous. So keep those little things in mind. And when these kind of situations come in, those yogis, okay, they must note or they must observe and note. Note, rising, falling, lifting, pushing, dropping. They must note forcefully, energetically, and sharply, not just rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. In other words, little power, force, energy, sharpness, put it in. Like as if you are scolding yourself. That kind of thing. By doing so, it may remedy the situation. And also, there's another one, we are talking about lifting, pushing, dropping. Another one is thinking. You go into thought as soon as you become aware of, you say thinking, 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 wondering, wondering, that's it. But for those kind of people, that's not enough. Some people just thinking, thinking, the thoughts goes away and they keep away. That's okay. But those type of people, thinking, thinking, wondering, wondering is not enough. Like scriptural language, it's called loba citta. You will say, in other words, consciousness associated with loba, consciousness associated with dosa, anger, consciousness associated with moha. You remember the first three pairs of the consciousness in the Cetanupassana. One must observe that way. Or, that's a spiritual term. In the real practical term, know that there's anger, there's lust, there's hate, there's wanting, there's desire. More specific, more detailed, go into it. By going more specific into the nature of the consciousness, not the content, not the story, the nature. By doing so, you may take yourself out of that drifting land, fantasy land. Yet the Buddha said that somehow it runs like this. Dried up the moisture of kilesa. Dried up the moisture of kilesa with the heat of effort by using Satipatthana Vipassana. Okay. In Buddhism, we always, kilesa is presented as something wet, sticky, moist. Kilesa always presented as that. And then effort is presented in a sort of a heating. Okay. You would have to put a great effort even to rub two sticks, to generate heat, to generate fire, heat to come up. So effort is always presented as heat, and moisture or being wet is presented as kilesa. That's why I said dry. You must totally dry up all the moisture with the moisture of kilesa, with the heat of effort. But with what? Rubbing two sticks? No. You must use the full foundation of mindfulness. By using these four groups, you exert great energy and dried up all the kilesa. That's Buddha's words. So to do that, Satipatthana Vipassana, we always use that one word, mindfulness, insight, meditation. But what it is, a little more detail, is you are exercising 3 trainings. What are the 3 trainings, if you remember? Morality, sila; concentration, samadhi; and wisdom, pinya. Sila, samadhi, pinya. You must practice these 3 trainings. Or, if you want to go even a little deeper, you must exercise the 8 constituents of the Noble Path, 8-fold Noble Path. So we won't go into detail. You know what 8-fold Noble Path is. Morality group, concentration group, and wisdom group. You must practice these things. And if one is very confident in this practice and know what kind of benefits can arise out of it, of course theoretically what benefits can come out of it by practicing this mindfulness insight meditation, okay, that person will practice seriously and respectfully. Okay. Seriously and respectfully, you can interpret in any way, whichever way people likes to. Let's narrow it down. What does it mean by seriously and respectfully? By totally, purely emphasizing, focusing on one noting at a time. If you are serious, you will be giving full attention on one noting, one sati, one mindfulness at a time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. And if you focus that much attention on each noting without having a gap in between, that means the yogi is serious about this practice and very respectful of this practice. That's the definition of serious and respect. We say that because many teachers come across many yogis. We call them chronic yogi. Chronic yogi, C-H-R-O-N-I-C, chronic yogis. These yogis, they have been practicing 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. They go wherever there's a retreat is. Oh, this retreat, that retreat, rain retreat. Oh, this great teacher is giving in that country. You follow, you go, you practice, you go, you practice. But they do that diligently without missing. But the sad thing is they never really experience the Dhamma. They never truly experience the flavor, taste the flavor of the true Dhamma. And those kind of people, we call it chronic yogi. Our teachers give that name. So, for those kind of yogis, even the great teachers has to surrender. They can't do anything. They just let it be. Okay, at least they come here and they practice. They are not going around and doing what you call transgressive kilesa and obsessive kilesa. That's about it. But they would not progress in terms of Dhamma. And here, once a person observes fairly consistently, okay, if you can observe very consistently, not once or twice, consistently, that there are thoughts. Okay, my thoughts are related with raga or greed, desire. Might have thoughts that are related with dosa, anger, aversion, dissatisfaction. If they become aware of it, if they can observe consistently and if they can observe consistently and become aware of these things, the nature of their thoughts, or in other words, the type of consciousness that are arising in you. What happened was you began to understand yourself, your idiotic nature, all the fallacy that you have in your mind, all the idiosyncrasy you have in your mind. You become to understand that, but you must be able to observe and know it. And as soon as you know it, and if you are practicing this mindfulness insight, it is auto-correction. They correct it. They arise, you're aware, they disappear. That disappearance is the correction. They automatically correct it very quickly. Just to give an example, we are all familiar with alcoholics. Okay. The first step to cure yourself out of that alcoholics or alcoholism is you have to admit that you are alcoholic. Some people for decades and decades they don't admit and they can do nothing. You have to admit that you are alcoholic, and once you admit it, you are already gone into the 50% into the recovery stage. Let's say the first step into the recovery stage. The same thing, the initial awareness, the first awareness of your own thoughts, of your own kilesa, the nature of their thoughts, the nature of your thoughts, that initial series of awareness. Oh, I have this kind of thoughts arising. I have this nature of thoughts arising. Not content, the nature. And that is basically you are admitting you to yourself. Like an alcoholic admit to himself, I am an alcoholic. Here, oh, I'm full of irritation. I'm full of frustration. I'm full of sense desire, and so on and so forth. That's the first admitted. Initial understanding is the more like an admittance that you are addicted to kilesa. Only when you're addicted, then automatically the cure will come. What is the cure? The same thing. You have a powerful and more pronounced awareness of your consciousness or of your thoughts arising. Simple word is thoughts, but precise word is citta, awareness. If you have a powerful awareness of all the consciousness, citta, arising at the moment, will become known. And when you know that that addiction to kilesa is over, every consciousness, you know their nature, and your addiction to kilesa is gone. Because the mind is like a child. Okay? If you let the mind run wild, okay, it will only collect bad habits, just like a child would. Let the child run, do whatever they want. They only collect bad habits, they don't collect good habits. The same thing, the mind. You let it go wild, they will collect all the bad habits, unwholesome habits. And the mind is very hard to tame. It requires discipline and training and harnessing for the mind to become proper, polite, and gentle. And if you train like that, then through that training, you can develop good habits. Good habit doesn't come automatically. Bad habit is automatic. So keep that the nature in your mind, the nature of the mind. So in here, training, we call it training. Training is what? We all know mindfulness, insight, satipatthana, vipassana, because that's what we are practicing. So this mindfulness insight is a revolutionary way to improve, upgrade and strengthen your mind. Many culture, system, religion have many different ways of how to train their mind. But this Buddhist way, mindfulness is a revolutionary way from all other systems, all other techniques. How to improve, upgrade and strengthen one's mind. And if you have a precise and correct noting or observation, you have one improvement. You do one noting, you have one improvement. And this system, this technique is the simplest, easiest, surest, and the quickest way to get result. And it is good for any level of yogi. Any level means whether you are a beginner or intermediate or advanced. Whatever you are in, level you are in, this is suitable. A person from the road who have never practiced any meditation can come and practice right away, and if you follow precisely with great effort, one will see the result in the shortest amount of time. So each and every noting, each and every observation, a step towards the establishing a mental culture. We'll put a new word, strengthening the mind, that's one thing. Here's mental culture. It's a specific word in Pali, it's called danta. Danta, mental culture. And if you have established this mental culture in one way is the non-arising of kilesa. If kilesa is not arising, the mind is totally cultured. Danta means, in a way, non-arising of kilesa. And if you have that, you will have a kind of happiness that you will never become bored of. Okay, we always know happiness. What happy? Okay, there's a great dish you like. Okay. Chicken pot pie, grandma recipe, put it in. Oh, great, I love it. I can eat it. One meal you can eat it, 2 meals you can say. If somebody keep on cooking that for about 10 days in a row, you will get sick of it. You won't get that pleasure anymore. In other words, some happiness, if you keep getting it, you become bored of it and you even have a repulsive nature towards it. But this happiness you get out of the mental culture, you will never get bored of it. Okay? And that happiness has a specific name, Santi Sukha, supreme bliss. Okay? It's a happiness that is pure, that you don't get bored of, that you don't need any sense pleasure. Without any sense pleasure, this kind of happiness arises. Okay? So, let's say you don't culture your mind. So, you don't culture your mind means your mind is in the unmindful state. Your mind is an unmindful state. Sad to say, most of our minds are unmindful state. Most of us and most of the time are unmindful state. So, if the mind is in an unmindful state, it has an infinite possibility and infinite potential that will grow into 3 unwholesome actions. What are these? Unwholesome thoughts. If your mind is unmindful, unwholesome thoughts will come in. Sometimes you will do unwholesome speech, and sometimes you will do unwholesome deed. And they have an infinite potential and possibility. It will become one or the other. That's what unmindful state is. But by being mindful, if you're mindful, automatically that potentiality or these possibilities are all cut off and terminated, eliminated, gone. So if these unwholesome states are eliminated, what happens? You become safe, you become secure, safe and secure from your own unwholesome action, speech, deed or thought. You are safe from these unwholesome actions. The result of these unwholesome actions, you are safe and secure. When you are safe and secure, you are in peace. And not only that, if you are safe and secure from these unwholesome actions that you might have taken, other people are also safe from the unwholesome actions that you might have done. Not only you, all the people that you are in contact with become safe and secure as well. People always think it's only about self, self, self. But it is interrelated world, interdependent world, conditioned world. Keep that in mind. You can never stand alone. Of course you can, but all your actions vibrate around you into the society. Don't forget that. Keep that in mind. So you practice mindfulness, and if this mindfulness become a habit, if it becomes a habit, in other words, it's with you. Once you become a habit, in those periods, even if you are not mindful, kilesa will not arise. Okay. Surprisingly, you will find it. Before you have to be mindful for kilesa not to arise, but if you make this sati a habit, then you will find even the moments that you are not mindful, kilesa doesn't arise. That's what it is. And that's what we call kilesa distancing. Liberation from kilesa, freedom from kilesa, vibhankana vimukti. So I stress quite a bit on this vibhankana vimukti because that is where most of our yogis are. Okay, momentary one, if you have one precise noting, you got it. But you can't feel it, you can't see it, you can't taste it. But at this second stage, vibhankana vimukti, you can feel it, you can see it, you can taste it. And even if you temporarily lost mindfulness, kilesa will not arise. You have come to the second phase of liberation, vibhankana vimukti. And the third one is called samucceda vimukti. Samucceda vimukti is, it's a freedom from kilesa that have a power to reproduce or to give rebirth in the full willful state. Now it's very specific. Samucceda vimukti, it's a freedom from types of kilesa that can reproduce or give rebirth in the full willful state, states of constant suffering or 80 or 90% of your life, to give numbers, is suffering. Very little pleasure. That's our full willful state. So in here, what you do, once you got a Vibhankana Vimukti, okay, Kilesa distancing, you keep practice. When you keep practice, what happened was you began to understand the nature, the true nature of the mind, the true nature of the matter. There are two different phenomena, and they walk hand in hand through the law of cause and effect, and these are always arising and passing away. And the system, these mind and matters, are always oppressed by this nature of impermanence, and there's no such thing as a core, no such thing as something as self or a soul or individuality or personality. These things you come to know stage by stage. And slowly, the higher you go, you still know the same thing, but in a more pronounced way, more distinct way, more clear way. That's the difference. Clarity, okay, changes. The higher you go, the more clear you come to experience these things. Basically, you can call it gradual progress in insight or jnana. And upon maturity of all the insight, one will experience the first part consciousness, mega citta, or part wisdom, mega pinya. And along with that mega citta or mega pinya, part wisdom, you have the samucceda vimukti. At that moment, you are 100% totally free from the kilesa that can or that have the power to give rebirth in the full willful state. Another word for it is called Sotapanna, the first stream winner, the first noble person. That's one. And the next one is called Patipassati Vibhuti. This is simple. Okay, you have this, you become a noble person. Okay, part consciousness, mega citta, and once you have that part consciousness, it comes with its part and fruition. The result of that part, the result of the wisdom is you have some, let's call it peace, pala, fruition, result, peace. Some kind of peace far superior than the one that we know before. And you can experience or you can stay in that fruition. Samapati, you can stay in it. And that one is the freedom from the kilesa, okay, of the part consciousness and experiencing. You experience or you feel peace brought about by the uprooting of kilesa by part consciousness. The result of the part, basically, simply put. Patipassati Vimukti. And then, of course, you know there are 4 different levels. First noble person, second noble person, third, fourth. So, accordingly, you will experience. And the final one, or the 5th one of liberation is called Nissarana Vibhukti. It is total escape from the constant arising and passing away of nama and rupa. You escape. In other words, cessation of mind and matter. Your mind and matter cease to exist. Don't think you die. You are still alive, but you can experience the cessation of mind and matter. That is the 5th type of freedom or liberation. So there are 5 kinds of liberation. One is the momentary liberation. Second one is liberation through kilesa distancing. And the third one is freedom from the four woeful state. The fourth one is result, or let's say peace. Peace of extinction of kilesa from each part consciousness. And the final is total and complete extinction of kilesa. Okay. So the first two are for most people, the first two liberation. The second two liberations, the final 3 liberations are for the noble person, Ariya. So may all of you be able to practice mindfulness insight meditation, may you be able to experience all 5 types of freedom and liberation from kilesa as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.